Good night, everyone. Welcome. Carl, you hearing us, right?
Yes, loud and
Welcome.
clear. Good night, everyone.
Good night. So great to have who's joining us live. Thank you for being part of this great conversation. Caribbean Connect welcomes all to the platform. And of course, we welcome our speaker here tonight, Carl Suku, who will bring some great conversation on still a very hot topic, the budget. I'm Shivani Sinarayan, and I'll be your moderator here for tonight. So, Carl, thank you for being part of this conversation.
You're most welcome.
So, persons may want to know, who is Carl? For those of us who don't know who Carl is. So, who is Carl, right? Carl, when you look at Carl, you may think he has many years of experience, or he's looking like he, don't have that amount of years of experience, because you're looking very young. That's what I'm trying to say. So, Carl Suku is the Director of Taxation and Consultancy at DS Business Support Services Limited. Carl is a practicing attorney at law. He holds a Bachelor of Law degree with other honors and legal practice certificate. He's also a qualified chartered accountant in Trinidad and Tobago, a fellow of the Association of the Certified Chartered Accountants, and a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Trinidad and Tobago, and sits on the Taxation and Disciplinary Committees. Carl has diverse experience in outsourced accounting services, taxation, property law, and corporate, commercial, and business law. So, Carl, I'm supposed to have a cup of tea or some water to pause after, reading that long, profile of you. So welcome, and we're so happy to have you here tonight. And of course, all the persons who are joining us live. Persons can also, look on Caribbean Connect, and we'll see the recording of this on all our channels. But for those of us who join in live, if you have any questions, please type in the chat, and we will take the questions. So, Carl, this is such an interesting topic. Do you believe it is still a hot topic, the budget? I mean, we had the budget in October, 2 weeks ago, and, persons are still talking about it. I guess it has to be a hot topic because we are still here, right?
Very much so. Very much so. It is.
So, when we look at the budget, and of course, your profile, you speak so much about property tax and taxation and accounting. So we know this is something that you're going to bring a lot of information. It's always, right now, everybody's talking about property tax and what are the differences, what are some of the changes. So in your view, after you looked at the budget, what are some of the major changes? And of course, you want to bring the information in terms of taxation. So,
the major changes came. The major changes came after 2009, when the previous administration used the word and said we're gonna axe the tax. So they suspend the property tax. They repeal those legislations and enactment. So there were no property tax until the current administration came into being. And the property tax has been low in Trinidad and Tobago for a number of years. A lot of people don't understand that concept. The point is, it's being granted a waiver on an annual basis by the Minister of Finance, meaning you are not being charged for those income year. The last waiver I could recall was 21 or 22, which means property tax is due for 22, 23. And 23-24. The minister has said in the recent budget a week ago, that property tax will be implemented come 2024. Now, 2024 is an interesting year with so many political rallies that will take place. I'm not sure how that implementation will take place. He could as well give a waiver, we don't know. And property taxes, for the first sets of implementation, it will start out with the residential part of Trinidad and Tobago. That means the requirements for the threshold for the commission valuation has been met a very long time ago. And for whatever reason, it's not been rolled out as yet. And only the minister know that. So I can't really pronounce on that. But I can tell you there are plenty uncertainty. Those that are renting, they know what the tax will be. It would be 3% of the rentable value. Now the rentable value is what they pay. They will get 10% reprieve, so it will be 90% of what they are paying. At 3% would be the tax. Now, what about those properties that are owned, wholly owned and occupied by families? How do you determine the rentable value? The rentable value is determined how much a person at arm's length would pay to rent that particular property in its entirety, not just your domicile. They take into consideration your shed, your carport, all of those things are taken into consideration when looking for valuation. So it's 3% of the rentable value, and that would rentable as compared to rent. It causes a lot of confusion.
Well, actually, Carl, I just got a question one time on the chat here. And someone is asking on the chat, I think we're having a little background noise here with someone, right? Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. Please mute your mic if you're not asking a question at this point. Great. One of the questions came up. What is the distinction between renting and owning the property? They wanted a little more information on that, about what exactly, if you are renting a property, then are you not paying the tax? Are you only paying the tax if you're renting or if you're owning the property? So, you know, a little confusion on renting versus owning.
That's a very, very, very interesting question. Specifically state that the tax will be levied on the owner and or occupier. So whether or not you legally own the property, once you're on the premises, the notice will be served on you and you are liable to pay. And this notice will come directly from the Board of Inland Revenue and not from the various warden office / regional corporation.
Thanks for that, Carl. So anyone who got any questions, please type in the chat and we'll take the questions throughout. Thank you. What about the proposed retirement age of 65? What are your views on that? What do you want to contribute? Well, you know, I have a lot of views on that one, you know.
Well, that one is a political statement. If you think of it, right, the retirement age, any discussion, any pronunciation on that particular aspect will come not from the minister, but from the National Insurance Board. It has to be NIB driven, meaning is the NIB will have the consultation with the stakeholders. The stakeholders are not just the working population, they are union involved. They are interested parties. And none of those consultations are currently taking place, and those things will take a number of years. So I was surprised when the minister made that statement, somewhat for Trinidad and Tobago when he said 65. Because I know in the global trend, everybody moving from 60 to anywhere between 62 to 63. And France was on literally fire a few weeks ago with respect to the same issue. England have a similar issue currently, whereby the nurses and the garbage collectors, they're not really working. They're staying away from the job. So the place is in a mess. So we want to move from 60, not to 62, not to 63, to 65. And again, that is an NIB driven. The recommendation has to come from NIB. It cannot be a top down from the minister down. It has to be an NIB driven based on the laws of NI that governs NIB.
Because presently at the university, once you are in a full-time academic position, you can go until 65, you know, so it's already there for certain positions, you know. So it's already there for certain positions.
Now remember, that is employment specific, and that's an option.
An option.
That's an option. Now, what the minister's proposed, he never said an option, you know. he make it
mandatory,
sound as though it is mandatory. That's the impression I got.
So we have a question from the chat. What is the justification for multi-family dwelling? So I guess this is going back to the property law. What is the justification for multi-family dwelling structures, premises to be exempted from property law?
I am not sure they are exempted, because the point is, once you have that multi-family, multi-dwelling, you will be charged based on the rentable value, and the onus would be on the owner/occupier of that particular property.
Hello?
And again, we are speaking strictly with respect to residential properties, not the commercial, or not those properties that are hybrid residential/commercial.
Good night, darling. I just want a two-piece.
Right. So I think somebody is on thing. Right. Good. Great. Thanks for that question, Roshan, and your answer, Carl. So please feel free, type in the chat, and we'll take the questions as we go forward. So proposed 10% increase. What about the proposed, what are your views on the proposed 10% increase in utilities?
Again, that's a political statement, because there are no law, no regulation governing any increase to be implemented by the political directorate at this point in time. Is the Regulatory Commission, those are a statutory body under the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago that will meet with stakeholders. They have a metric they will use to determine how much to raise. And that metric, you have to use a formula. The formula, we could guess it with the energy cost, the inflation, the increase or decrease of the purchasing parity power of Trinidad and Tobago, how people would have earn, whether it's more or less what they could buy with the same money that they earn, macro and microeconomic policies, and also various stakeholders, again, whether it's the energy sector, whether it's Heritage, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Energy, and the population at large, meaning they have to go out and have those consultations and take feedback and then revise the consultation all over again, similar to those that happens with respect to constitutional amendments that probably University of West Indies would have engaged in a number of occasions. So it's a similar process. So again, there's a statutory body under the Constitution have to do that based on prescribed rules and regulation. And it's not something that the Minister of Finance could willy-nilly say we would raise it by 10%. Again, it's something that is bottom-up and not top-down driven.
Yeah, but it sounds so far like it could be top-down, but we wait to see, right? We wait to see. So
those processes take years, yeah? Those processes take years. So when the minister make that statement, he probably gearing the population similar to the slow increase in the gas prices we have seen. Because who would have thought, gas moved from $3 and something to close to $7 now?
Yes. True. So what about, we're talking about business community, and a lot of points that were mentioned in the budget, it affecting the business community. What about the new procurement laws, and this new procurement division? What are your thoughts on that? And, anything you want to share with us with that, Carl?
Long overdue. That's long overdue. And it's a step in the right direction, but how it is managed and how it is implemented. Now, the requirements is for everyone to be registered, everyone who wants to do business with a state enterprise, and a state enterprise is defined very, very broadly. It's not just those ministry and government agencies, every and anything that are connected with state funds. So it could be a public-private partnership. State fund involved have to go through that procurement depository, meaning the office itself. All those vendors need to be registered, and to be registered, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of requirements. A simple thing, you need VAT clearance, tax clearance, NIS clearances. Those things are valid for three months only, right? I think the tax is for 6 months. The NIS is for 3 months. Those clearances need to be renewed. You need to upload your financial statements. You need to upload your insurance, your liabilities. You need to share information with respect to your owner's directorship and all of those things. And even some contracts, large contracts you have, you need to also share those information and constantly update those information. And then you can trade with any one of the public bodies in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, those are the requirements. Those things were rolled out. We don't know. We don't have feedback as yet to know what are the successes. I could tell you based on informal discussion with business community and also someone in the secretariat itself, the process is basically on hold. They're just trying to have some teething issues to sort out, and then they will go back at it again.
Okay. What about the company's registry online system? You're smiling with that one.
That's a step. Yeah, that is another step in the right direction, even though there are no laws or regulation governing that aspect. Because if you think of it, right, they want everything to be linked and streamlined, meaning that whether you are director, shareholders, secretary, or even an agent of a company, you need to have what you call a company registry account, a CRA. Now, to get this CRA, you need to register on the company registry online system, like the CROSS system. And to be on that system and to be registered, you need to have your birth certificate. And here's the thing about it. This is the Registrar General at Legal Affairs, company registry. But the birth certificate is also from the Registrar General Department, but civil registry. So right hand is asking for something that left hand have, right?
Yeah.
So they want a copy of your birth certificate. You have to put the PIN in and it have to be linked and verified. They want 2 forms of valid identification. They want you to take a selfie with one of the identification next to your face, whereby the identification must be visible and your face. They also, if there's any issue with your name, they will want either the affidavit or the report that attached with it. And if you are married and you have change of name because of marriage, you also have to upload a copy of your marriage certificate. Also, they want your residential address, telephone number, and email address. And if you are affiliated with more than one entity, or you are small or micro business owner, you need to have multiple emails for each one of those entities, because you cannot use one email address for all the entities that you're affiliated with. It has to be different emails address, because the system will not allow it. And that's how you get your cross registration. And then you would link now your PIN, your identity would link to all the various companies that you are affiliated with. Now, again, that's a step in the right direction. But could you imagine the tens, if not hundreds of thousands of active entities in Trinidad and Tobago, and all need to be done right now? The system crashed today because the amnesty going up just now with respect to filing annual returns and posting corporation documents. The system crashed again. Last year, December, it crashed. Earlier this year, it crashed, and they decided to roll the new cross system out. So they used the opportunity, the old system crashed, to implement a new one, which is good. But the system freezing right now, and it crashed today. Nobody could get on it.
So, we say in technology a lot, it's not technology is the problem, it's people is the problem. People problem.
Truth be told, right? There are some people who really don't want to take selfie, right? I have a few clients like those, right? I have asked for them to go in legal affairs. One of them went into San Fernando branch, and the San Fernando branch sent them to Port of Spain. Port of Spain branch said we don't have any mechanism for that. So it's fully digitized, but it's not catered for those of population who are not so tech savvy.
Exactly.
And I'm telling you, I have went personally at that particular section, I have seen a lot of ageable people stand up there, and the person will tell them, basically, we are not here with respect to queries. We are only here to assist with registration. If you have queries, you need to go on. They have a next portal where you would log queries, and they would respond to it and sort it out via emails. So again, if you're not tech savvy, you're in trouble.
Yeah, so we have all these systems, it always comes up in conversation. We have all these systems, and what about people? Have we understood what are the processes? Have we taken into consideration that who is actually going to be doing it, that they may not want to do it? So what we see is one step forward, sometimes two steps backwards. Yeah. Great. We have someone from the audience wanted us to discuss the property tax a little more, how to work it out. Somebody who just came into the conversation. They were asking about working it out, how to work it out. If they have 10 properties, they wanted to know what to do. I think the person probably have about
what you
12
can do,
properties.
you can look at one and then you can extrapolate from that point. So the formula is really simple. If you are renting, whether you are the landlord or you are the tenant, let's say you are paying $3,000 per month, right? So that will be 36. That will be 36 for the year, but you take 90% of it, right? The reason why you're taking 90% of it is because the law provides for that 10% is like a discount. So you will take your $3,000, right? And then you take 90% of it, which would give you 32,400, and then you take your tax from it, which is your property tax is 3%, which would give you, for that 3,000 monthly, it would give you $972 in taxes for the year. Right? So that is if you have rent and lease agreement to substantiate your rental income or your rental expenses, because your landlord may not be here and you are the occupier of the premises, so the tax will be levied on you. So you would have to calculate that too. So most business people would rent their place out of the country. Well, for example, right? Now, for those who have their own dwelling, they would have to determine what the rentable value that is. If a man on the street just walk up and say, this is what I'm willing to pay to live in that house, and check square footage. They will check your tile, your ceiling, your cupboard, whether it's teak, your number of AC, and they will even add your carport into it, your shed, even your water tank. All of those things will determine the rentable value at market rate. That is what they will use.
So you see, some people might take away their water tank and all of that to have it less.
Not necessarily. What they're trying to do, they're trying to determine a value.
Right.
Similar to a valuation exercise.
Another question that came up with your views, again, I wanted to discuss, was asking specifically on procurement regulations. And if you have any idea when this might actually be in effect, come on.
Actually, it is in effect right now. No, it is in effect right now. Because I would tell you, a number of my clients, well, I don't provide that particular service because it's very onerous. But again, I have 1 or 2 clients who are not so tech savvy. They are ageable and they need the help. And because of the client relationship we have, I decided to help them with their registration. It's very onerous, but once you are in and you have all your documents in, you will get offered to bid or to place your RFP into the entire population system at Trinidad and Tobago. So let's say, for example, Ministry of National Security need tires for their fleet of vehicles. They're not going to send it to let's say Mileage Mark just like that, They will put it out to everybody who have that specific tires to bid and send it in. So the market is just open now. It make it fairer and transparent. So far, the only thing that are excluded are those government-to-government contracts. those, for example, the government contracts between Trinidad and Tobago and the government of China, or those entities that are foreign, that under those type of contract that will come and do the bill and design and everything in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, so you made a point there also that triggered something. So what about even if you and I have to go into a MOU, two companies going into a MOU, that might not be, you just can't do it like that anymore.
No.
Yeah, you can't with the Procurement Act, going like this.
No, that would be outside the scope of the Procurement Act, yeah.
What, you could repeat what you just said there?
That MOU between individual companies in Trinidad and Tobago,
two companies to do work
outside,
together.
right? It would be outside the scope of the Procurement Act. The Procurement Act is for everyone who wants to transact business with any state entity or state affiliated entity, and that is defined very broadly as any entity that are using public funds, because you have those public-private partnership entities that are privately operated but is publicly funded. So they're spending taxpayers' money. So those things fall under the Procurement Act.
Yes. So for an example, well, not really an example, but a point that just came in my mind. Let's say that we want to commercialize some of these buildings now that are public buildings, right? It's public buildings. So that if we need to have a vendor to come there, you need to have somebody to sell something. You just can't have it just like that.
You need to be a registered vendor, and you also have to show your expertise in that particular area. So, for example, for me and my expertise with respect to the legal side, my aspect of procurement registration would be limited to specific field that is my strong area, and I have a track record to prove.
Right. So we call it due diligence, right? Due diligence. Yeah, we have
very
to
much
do
so.
Due diligence. So I guess these regulations and these bodies, that's the purpose, to do due diligence on each of the vendors and ensure that we, as you said, transparent. What about beneficial interest declaration under the Companies Act of Trinidad and Tobago? You want to discuss that a little more?
Yes. The Companies Act was amended in the year 2019. And those beneficial interests is really something that should have done a long time ago, that Trinidad was being pressured to implement, which is pressure to do the right thing really under the FATCA and the OECD guidelines. They want to know who are the owners and the true owners behind companies, because you may see someone on a piece of paper, but that person is not really the mover and shaker behind the company. There's another force that behind that person. So they want all of these things to be declared and registered. So the Companies Amendment Act of 2019 has passed a number of regulations into effect to amend those the Company Act. For example, Section 337 would have implemented a declaration, meaning at the beginning of every year, each shareholder, the company need to send a notice to each shareholder, which is a Form 40. And that Form 40 will lay out all the requirements under the law to declare whether you are the sole owner, either directly or indirectly, how you own that beneficial ownership. And based on that now, you will know which one of the other forms to send in back. And those forms are really a statutory declaration. It's like an affidavit. It is an affidavit that you'll be sending in a specific format to say who you are, your occupation, your address, the date, you are a shareholder in X, Y, and Z company, the number of shares you have held, the date you own those shares, whether you own those shares directly or indirectly or through other means. Through other means, for example, if you are the legal personal representative for an estate, you will say it like that, and you will put it in and you will list out all of those shares. Now, those things would roll into from the Form 41 now into the Form 42, 3 or 4, right? Those things would now go as a statutory declaration to the company secretary. When the company secretary receives those documents, he or she have within 14 days from the receipt thereof to amend their records accordingly before filing at the Registrar General Office. And those records could either be the beneficial ownership return, which is the Form 45, known as Declaration of Beneficial Interest. And if there's any changes in the shareholding, these are changes in beneficial ownership form, which is a Form 46. And at the end of the year, all of those things we just discussed would roll now into the annual return, which is the Form 28. Now, all of these things are online now through the cross system that we discussed earlier. So if you want to do an annual return or you want to make changes to a director or shareholding, all of those things need to file through the cross system. And if you do not have a PIN, which meaning you are not registered on the CRA and have a PIN, none of those changes could take effect in that particular company. So you can understand how the system is in a mess right now. But it being cleaned up and doing that, you know, who is who owned what. So it's a step in the right direction so nobody can hide. And the Company Act also, the new amendments also provide for, if by any chance you did not declare your beneficial interest, you cannot come after the fact to say, I am now the owner, because the law says you have forfeit those rights and those privileges and those ownership in property. So that's an interesting aspect of the amendments.
So, you know, someone just asked again, you spoke about all these forms. So if somebody don't know about the forms, how would they, I guess they'll have to come to you? Yeah, how will they learn?
Yes, they could go to the professional advisors, whether you are a licensed chartered accountant or you're an attorney at law that practice in that particular area. Because not all attorney at law practice in the corporate commercial field and company law field.
Right. Back to another question actually with procurement. So this person is asking, if you don't have a company, so you're not registered as a company, but you are, you know, you have services. So for example, I'm a project manager by profession, as you know, and I want to be able to get some consultancy job. Do I have now to register my services like that, or because I'm not a company, I'm a person?
Well, you see the thing about it, the Business Registration Act of Trinidad and Tobago mandates that everyone who engage in commercial activities, meaning you are providing goods and or services. In your case, you fall under the services category. You need to register with the Ministry of Legal Affairs Company Registry.
You need to have a company. You need to have a business.
A business. So as yourself, it don't have to be, when we use the word company loosely, I know it means a sole trader, partnership, and a limited liability company, right? But I just like to be specific to say business, partnership, and company. So just bear with me, right? So in your case, it will be a business. So you have to be registered as a business first with the company registry. That is Registrar General's Department, company registry. Then also you need to ensure that that reflected on your BIR side of things, because you don't want to have BIR number to be an individual, whereby you are an individual in trade. So you need to have that updated, because the reason why that is important, when you have your Form C from BIR, which is a tax clearance, right, that you upload it into the OPR, you want to make sure that it's state business and not individual, because those are some of the little technicalities that would prevent you from getting that particular contract that you wanted.
Yes, because I know in the chat we have a lot of consultants, project management consultants, technical consultants here, and you know, a lot of persons may not be registered under the Companies Act, but they provide services. They are coaches, you know, executive coaches, and different companies may call them because of their experience over the years and their coach. But now it is changing. The game is changing, as we say.
No, actually, there's a very good statement that you made, that I should delve into another particular area that you have not mentioned.
Great.
And this moves into, forgive me, it moves into criminality. So here how it reached there, right?
Into criminality. Yes.
Here how it reached there, right? You are engaging in trade, right? And you have that money coming in. What you will do with that money is you deposit into your bank account.
Right.
And that bank account is your saving account. That is not your business account. And under the Central Bank Act, it mandates that trade money need to be separated from your savings money, because the trade money is what you pay tax on. Your saving is after tax money that you have. So when you mix the two, it is called commingling.
Commingling, yes.
That is a criminal offense.
Carl,
So
I'm not saying that it's me, because I am registered under a company, so it's not me, right? And nobody here on the chat.
No. That is for when you pose this up, right? Remember, it's for the wider community, whether you're in Trinidad and Tobago or outside of Trinidad and Tobago. So take, for example, you have a Trini that lives in New York. And because of the advent of technology, that person would be working in the US, but the income is derived from the source of Trinidad and Tobago. So the taxing legislation is Trinidad and Tobago. So even though he receives that money in New York or in London or wherever he have his account, that the money going into, right? The source of the earnings, it comes from Trinidad and Tobago. So it ought to be taxed in Trinidad and Tobago, that person is subject to Trinidad and Tobago taxation. It's a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago.
What about, right? You just brought up something also. Let's say you have an online, so it's an online business, and money is coming in from the US. You just mentioned it. Somebody is paying and they're located wherever. So money will be coming into the account. So all that you just can't set it up like that. It must be under a registered business, A registered business.
So most people, what they do, they register their name. Because I did, Carl Suku. I registered mine in Carl Suku & Co. for the legal side of things.
Yes, exactly. So good point. You mentioned something about sole trader. What would be the difference? Why would someone want to go as a sole trader versus the company?
Well, sole trader is you. If you're a small business, well, most large businesses are also sole trader, medium-sized to large business in Trinidad and Tobago. Some of the family own sole trader. I mean, you have one person that own it, and everybody else just work, or a family member just work with it, right? So somebody will set up a sole trader business to start off with, a mom and pop shop. You now started as a consultant. So you set up as a sole trader, you registered yourself, or you registered name. So you could register Cherry Co, but it's really Carl Suku Trading as Cherry Co. So the name of the business is Cherry Co, but the legal name of the entity is Carl Suku Trading as Cherry Co.
So Cherry Co is the business name.
Correct. Cherry Co is the business name. So for example, when somebody write a check, they don't write a check to Carl Suku or Carl Suku Trading as Cherry Co. They just write a check to Cherry Co. And you would have a business account in the name of Cherry Co.
But you want everybody to know Carl Suku.
Correct.
So great points there. I know, this is always a conversation with lawyers among Solomon versus Solomon, that particular case always. And that's why, you will go and set it up as a company. So you wouldn't have, and a lot of consultants.
But you can set it up as a company, but a company right now, I would advise if you now start out, it depends which field you're in or what type of services you're providing. Then I will tell you whether or not you can set up a company. So for example, to provide legal services, if you set up a company, you will not get any professional indemnity in the name of the company. The professional indemnity insurance have to be the name of the person or the firm or the number of persons in the partnership, right? So that is a no-no. And then again, the legal profession act prevent that. Similar to a chartered accountant, you can't do that for a chartered accountant to provide audit services. So in my case, DS Business, I set it up like that because I'm not providing audit services. I'm providing everything except audit services.
Right. Okay. I got
you. It depends what you want to do, and then you will get the advice whether to do it as a business, a sole trader that is, or a limited liability company. But bear in mind, limited liability company have onerous filing requirements every year.
Yeah. You'll have to know, what's the advantage of actually doing it that way or not, as you said.
Actually, individual, once you're less than $1 million in income, you pay 25% in tax. But companies, is 30% tax across the board. So there's the benefit too.
Yeah, to do in the company.
Yes.
Okay, great, Carl. Another person said they would like to hear so much more on the property tax. So definitely we'll have much more conversation on the property tax.
Actually, that should be a program by itself, because first we need to determine property. We need to determine the distinction between the types of properties. So one of the questions is multifamily dwelling, that was earlier. And then you're looking at condominium and all of those things. Because who really owns legally, who own that property is the lessor. So all of those persons who own those particular apartments, they don't own the property, they don't own the apartment, they own the right for that particular section of the apartment that they have. And it's only for a limited number of times, 99 years, and for example.
Thank you. I think was Roshan again had his hand up. I don't, but his hand is down now. Did you want to ask a question?
Yeah,
or you want, yeah. Thank you, Roshan. Yes, come in.
Yeah, Carl. What I was getting at when I asked about the multi-family dwelling is that it is alleged that certain minister exempted his property from that taxation, and he had multi-family dwellings.
Yeah. You see the thing, right? When we delve into allegations, right, without looking at the black and white, right? Because when it comes to ministers, like a political football, you will have the opposition making allegations and the government would respond to those allegations. But here's the thing about it, those allegations and counter allegations are only made in parliament under parliamentary privileges, and it would be broadcast live or printed in the media, but in parliament, it is parliamentary privilege. You cannot take it for granted. None of them would come out and make that statement outside parliament, you know.
Thanks, Roshan. Understood. Thank you, Carl, for that. I thought you were going to say,
You're welcome.
I thought you were going to tell Roshan, you know, we'll talk about that conversation after. Yeah.
No, I just have to draw the analogy. You're most welcome.
Yes, of course, there. Great answer.
But on a serious note, right, Shivani, we need to look at this whole property law and some of the intricacy involved in the particular act, the amendment, and take, for example, the effective date. Because bearing in mind, right, someone may sell a property today, right? That does not mean that they are only liable to the property tax prospectively, you know. Because remember I said earlier, we did not receive any waiver for last year and the year before. Well, I'm not certain about the year before, but certain about last year. That waiver in the law to say that no property tax will be collected for that particular year. So don't be surprised when property tax rolled out is not 1 year you have to pay, you know, it might be a number of years going back. But when I mean a number, it would not be 5, 6 years, unless prospectively 4 years from now, they roll out the tax. But let's say it's implemented next year, you may have 23, 24, and you may have 21, 22 to go with it. If you know what I mean.
And we don't know that. People don't know that, right? We don't know that.
We don't know that. So all of those things we need to look at.
Exactly. So we'll definitely have more conversation on the property tax because, of course, that's a major conversation. And the retirement age, you know, of 65, if this really will come in effect. Somebody actually said that they may do it on a phase basis, allow people to stay until 61. That's what we were hearing. You heard that?
Think of it, right? Think of it like this, right? What about those people who are actually at the retirement age right now, right? Let's say someone in the Teaching Service Commission, I use a specific example, right? Becomes of age and need to retire, but they're retiring next year. And let's say, for argument's sake, NIB is very efficient and there is no pushback in Trinidad and Tobago, and hypothetically speaking, everyone buys into it, and it's implemented next year. But I just think, like a personal opinion, that will take a number of years. But let me say everything goes well and implemented next year. This teacher going to retire next year. They're going to pass the law next year. Remember, this person have a contract going back about 30 years.
That they retired
So
60.
now you cannot pass, right? You cannot pass an act with a simple majority in Parliament that affects someone's constitutional rights, and you take away that constitutional right to force them to work an additional 5 years. Again, it's supposed to be optional for those persons. But for those new people who come in on or particular service line years, to say, okay, if you have less than 15 years, your effective years of retirement is now 65 instead of 60.
Exactly.
And again, it becomes a constitutionality issue, because the current administration have a simple majority in Parliament, and they govern with a simple majority. But some of these issues have constitutional effect, and they need the support of the opposition. And again, this is have to get the whole of Trinidad and Tobago to buy into that.
Very, very, very true. And, do more consultations. And it's not, unions have to be involved heavily also in this. Unions.
Oh, yeah. And could you imagine getting all the unions to agree on something like that?
Yeah, of course, we could see that, happening.
Yes.
Yeah, we could see it happening, right? So, Carl, what are some of the key? We have another question. It should be an option to work to 65. Oh, that's a point. It should be an option to work to 65, not mandatory. Just my opinion. We should have to pay for mismanagement of NIB funds. We should not have to pay.
Right. The latter aspect is more of an allegation that we are trying to get into some nice, serious facts and how to navigate what is in front of us. So with respect to the option to retire at 65, I would say that should be a no-no at this point in time, because right now, France, I think they retire with 62, if I'm not mistaken, either 62 or 63. It is not 65. So maybe we should look at option to say here what. If you want to retire at age 62, given the option to retire at 62, you will get probably an additional premium in your monthly pension. Now, there's a serious issue. There's a serious issue that could cause an upheaval in Trinidad and Tobago, if you think of it like that, which I hope no one go down that road, right? Could you imagine you work your entire life and you're forced to work an additional 65 years to get the same pension someone who has never worked or contributed to the NIS system getting the same pension?
Yeah, I definitely.
That one is a recipe for disaster.
Definitely, I can't work until no 65. They have to give it to me not mandatory at all. So I waiting to hear that.
No, my mindset close off at 55.
At 55, yeah. To be in the
so I'm not sure
in that kind of you could do projects and stuff. Yeah, and you do
at your own pace.
Yeah,
you wake up with your PJs and you eat your cereals and you work at your own pace.
More freelance. Well, I think I am there already to freelance and work at my own pace, Carl. So, and I'm sure you are like me as well. So I don't know if that age 65 what's going to happen to especially persons in that kind of consultancy and this kind of knowledge-based workers, we call them knowledge-based. We are knowledge-based workers. I don't know if that is going to happen. I don't know if that's going to happen at all. A lot more consultation and stuff needs to go into that. I agree. So, Carl, I got key takeaways here. Yes, Carl? Sorry.
Sure. I was just trying to say what the in my opinion, is not the work itself at 65, there's a little technical that is that we 65. You could retire whatever age you want.
Yes.
But instead of you getting your pension at age 60, it's not going to be due until 65.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, so I think it's the payment part the NIB is trying to, or the government trying to defer from paying.
Thank you, Carl. So what are some of my key takeaways from this wonderful conversation here that we went on to almost an hour? And we thought that might have been about 30 minutes, but you and I know differently. We've been doing these talks so much and, you know, we keep on talking, which is great, right? My key takeaways from this conversation is that I want to know a lot more about the property tax, and there's a difference with the rentable. Also the multi-family dwelling and the condominiums, and with the property tax now, they're coming to look at every square footage, you know, so I got some good information on that. There were a lot of current changes. There's some of the changes that you mentioned, which was the property tax that came out of the budget, the retirement age of 65, and it just makes me think even now more and more, how is this going to affect knowledge workers? There's the knowledge workers is becoming increasing more and more because of technology, you know, the freelance economy and all of that. Also, you mentioned about the 10% increase in utilities, and your main point there, Carl, was it's not, you know, we could say all of these things, but at the end of the day, it's just a statement. It's a statement. We don't have all the information.
It's just a statement. It has to come from the Regulatory Commission.
Great, from the Commission. You also mentioned a lot about the OPR. I'm always interested in that, you know, procurement, and all of us here in companies and business doing business, B2B business. We want to learn a lot more about the OPR. So we'll have much more conversations about this. This is just of your, you know, introducing a lot of the topics. Also the company's registry online system. And, you know, it just keeps in my mind that we have all these systems we want to do. And what about the culture of people? Are we really understanding that? Can we work? What are we doing for that? To me, there's always a disconnect there, and we need to get that right. Probably I'm talking because of background in tech. And then you spoke a lot about the Companies Act and the amendment to that. So thank you, Carl. Any closing words from you?
It's very insightful always to bring up current affairs and how it affects the business community and the population at large. I am always here. I'm willing to impart some of the knowledge I have to you and your viewership, and on the platform to the global community, especially people who are willing to do business in Trinidad and Tobago, or from Trinidad and Tobago are willing to do businesses beyond. I'm always there. So anyone could reach out to me at any point in time.
Great, Carl. So Caribbean Connect, yeah, we wish to say thanks to you, Carl, for bringing this information on our platform. And in discussions, you know, we're going to have a lot more self-paced learning coming out of this conversation. So we look forward to working with you, bringing the information. Anyone would like to get any more questions addressed, please send it. You all know CaribbeanConnect00@gmail.com. We could also put Carl, and we'll send the recording to everyone. Carl also did a slide deck on some information that we'll share again with everybody. So thank you so much, Carl. Thank you, everyone. Until we meet again. Thank you, Carl. Thank you, everybody.
Definitely.
Pleasant night to everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye, Roshan. All the best.